Thank you, Aaron, and good morning, Emma. Thanks for your time today. I usually ask questions about players who are on the roster, but I wanted to start with someone who's not on the roster, Lily
Yeah.
Ioannis. I know
Yeah.
you have discussed the fact that she's in the middle of making her decision, that you guys
Yeah.
are letting her give that time. Is there an update on any talks that you've had with her recently about this roster or any future rosters?
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned before, we have to be mindful. She's a really young player and has been, plying her domestic club football in the Netherlands. So, understandably, she wants to take the time at her age and her stage before she makes an important decision. But there has been communication post Olympics between Lily and us at the federation. So I'm always optimistic, but I don't like to pressure anybody in this situation. And at the moment, I don't have an update, but I still very much harbour the hopes that Lily will represent the US in the future. And no matter what time it takes, it needs to be right for Lily. And when that time's right, I'm sure, I'll update if I have anything to say on that. For the moment, it's just, we haven't reached a conclusion to that yet.
Thank you, sir. Let's go to Jonathan Tannenwald. Go ahead, JT.
Thanks, Aaron. Hi, Emma. Thanks as always for the time.
Hey.
Wanted to ask you first of all about Sophia Smith. I know you were in Portland recently, on how you assess sort of where her fitness is because she hasn't played in a few weeks, and also how you assess Caterina Macario, who is back playing, obviously on a minutes restriction. Chelsea not playing every game, but is playing some, but was not called in this time. Thanks as always.
Yeah, I think with Soph, I saw her in Portland and, obviously aware that she's been absent for a few weeks, but she's been training and playing ever since pre-season began last January. And while it is an ideal preparation for her, not playing over a 2, 3 weeks period isn't the end of the world. And she is doing work in the background, albeit individually. Of course, she needs to come through the game this weekend. So I think that's important, but I also think it's really critical for everybody to understand that sometimes some things take a little bit longer, but it doesn't mean that players are just sitting and they're idle. They're also training and doing stuff in the background. So I've been assured by both Portland and by South that if she comes through this weekend, we should have no problems. I think when it comes to Kat Macario, we all know what I think about Kat. I selected her for the Olympics, but the realities are we need Kat playing week in, week out on a regular basis. She certainly doesn't have the body of games behind her in these last sort of 30 months. And I think it's so, so important for her to get that right as opposed to yo-yoing in and out. And at this moment, obviously, I know her history and know the people at Chelsea are working really hard with her. But I think it's best for her to stay put, to get herself to a place where she can start regularly for Chelsea first. And hopefully that will be very soon because Kat is not only an important player for Chelsea, but hopefully for us too. So I think it's right for her to stay put and see where she is come the next international camp.
Thanks, Emma. Thanks, Jonathan. Let's go to Jeff Kassouf. Go ahead, Jeff.
Thanks, Aaron. Thanks, Emma, for doing this.
Thank
Good to
you.
see you. I'm wondering, bigger picture here now. You're turning attention toward the 2027 World Cup. What are the highest priorities for you to address now that you actually have some time to take that longer view of things, whether that's specific in terms of maybe positional depth or the player pool, or even more abstract to playing style?
I think I mentioned it a couple of times. We've completed our Olympic review and everything that goes with that. We'll start analysing that next week. But we're very much in the process of building the 27-28 strategy, the WNT YNT strategy, which we will be delivering in January at our conference, which will be for YNT and WNT and all of our coaches, so that we can embark on the next steps of our journey. So that work in terms of strategy developments involves so many key stakeholders, not just inside the federation, but outside, to make sure we not only prepare our teams for the future, but always making sure, we take into consideration the steps along the way. So my priority has been developing and building relationships with everybody in the background to make sure we can deliver that on time. Second of all, it's been to watch players that are outside the current playing pool. So my coaching team has been traveling all over, watching players, not just across the NWSL, but wherever our players might be, and building a bigger understanding. Hence the reason we took the decision to bring in players that have not been part of the Under-20 World Cup, because we feel that they've played a major tournament. They don't get much recovery. Their clubs have been absent with them. So I think at this moment, the Under-20s won't come into consideration until January, maybe the November camp. And this is about a period for the best within the NWSL that may have had looks in the past, but gives us an opportunity in a very congested domestic scheduling where we have 3 games. And so I asked for 26 players as opposed to the usual 23, so that we can manage, opportunities for players to play, plus hopefully get them back to their clubs in a safe place for them to finish out the season. And finally, really just reviewing internally how we take ourselves to the next places, and that involves a myriad of things. But it's certainly been a really busy period post Olympics, but one that I'm really, really enjoying.
Thanks, Emma.
Thanks, Jeff. Let's go to Sylvia Bullock. Go ahead, Sylvia.
Hi, Emma. Just a quick roster question. You've called in both Corbin Albert and Eva Gaetano, and sorry if I said her name incorrectly. And they're both playing for PSG, who has not qualified for the Champions League. Are you worried about them playing less games compared to their other counterparts?
No, I'm not worried. They're still playing competitive games week in, week out. They're playing at a high level in the French league. They'll be competing for titles there. So, I wouldn't, the yardstick isn't that you have to be playing in the Champions League. You have to be testing yourself at the highest level. You have to be performing consistently. And yes, I think PSG are one of the top clubs in the world. And while they didn't qualify, we've seen in previous years how difficult those early rounds are, because it's so early on in the season. So I'm not concerned with that. And I'm just looking forward to seeing both of them in the camp. And as I said before, this is an opportunity for me to see Eva firsthand. I'm looking forward to that. And for Corbin, equally, I want to see her build on the performances from this summer's Olympics.
Thank you.
Thank
Let's go. Thanks. Let's go to Leslie Ryder. Go ahead, Leslie.
Hey, folks. Thanks for calling, Aaron. Emma, you and the team have shown what's possible under an intense amount of pressure in a very short period of time. But now that there is time to really see players and develop talent, how do you want to define this next chapter for the team?
As I've previously mentioned, I think that's going to become even clearer when we share what the strategy will be towards that. But nothing changes in terms of, it's another opportunity for us to create new history and new heights, and as well as an identity that is built on an already outstanding program. For me, it's just about evolving, and the Olympics, form a great basis and is a great foundation for us, but it's not a future predictor for success. We have to make sure we drive the key messages home to all of the players. One, the importance of what you're doing week in, week out at the club level. It absolutely matters, because you have to perform consistently, or you have to be in environments where you're challenging yourselves every day. That's the big message from me. And tactically, we will evolve. Like that's the reality of it. I think you saw throughout the Olympics teams starting to sit a lot lower, sitting with a lot of bodies and making it very difficult for us to break teams down. So we have to find different ways against different opponents all of the time, much like playing against a team like Brazil who go man for man all over the park. For us, I feel like we've already got a great understanding of our principles. We just need to evolve it to the next step.
Excellent. Let's go to Andrew Jones. Go ahead, Andrew.
Thanks, Aaron. Good to see you as always. And
I can't see you though.
oh,
There
yeah.
you are.
All right. I know we got so many small
Hi.
swings here, but there I am, and good to see you too.
I'm
Emma.
like looking at various different dark screens. So like I'm so glad I can actually see your face.
That is excellent multitasking for how you got to look at a lot of formations and everything that made you prepared. Hope that you've gotten settled here, you, Harry, and everyone else that is close to you so far. Wanted to ask you the announcement of the Futures Camp. We've had the January camp for the men's team, and this is the first time the women's team, at least before the start of the domestic season over here. The excitement, I guess, that has with you wanting to develop players, as you said, is a main goal of yours. Your thoughts on that, as well as now that Mauricio Pochettino is officially here, and you don't have to tell Matt Crocker where's Poch anymore. Your whole thoughts with him being here after that video message you gave him, and now him being fully a part of the U.S. team with you.
Well, I think first of all, I'm really excited about the Futures Camp. I'm very much a believer of making, everything we do interdisciplinary, and that from WNT, YNT down, there's a very, very clear pathway for our players. And I'm working really hard with Tracy Kevins in the background to put together a futures program that will see our best young players, plus that's not just within the under 20s, it could be under 23s, and it could be the best of in NWSL or beyond USL that we haven't seen yet, where we can develop the right strategy for that group going into 2027. But like I said, we're going to have a WNT and YNT conference there, the first of its kind, where all youth coaches, national team coaches, and the staff in and around the teams come together so we can deliver a unified strategy. And most importantly, when the WNT are training, the Futures Camp will be going side by side. So if I'm coaching on one side and that session finishes, I'm able to then be involved with the session on the other side. And I think the important part is the collaboration, particularly with the NWSL. So I've been communicating across the board at the board level, the general management level, the head coaching level, the plans, not just for this camp, but for the November camp and for the futures, to make sure we're aligned, and most importantly that we build trust, because the January camp is during a pre-season. So I think it's important for us when we bring players into our care. I know what it's like as a club coach to do that. So I want to take care of our players in the preparation for the beginning of their season. So that will be a lot of fun, and I think a really great opportunity. And then I guess with Poch, what can I say? He's an amazing human being, an amazing leader. I'm delighted we've brought him to the US. I'm sure all of you can see, why he's, such a great guy, very charismatic leader, and I know he will be great for our guys. And both him and I are very happy to be in the US. And I don't think he's quite travelled around as much as me just yet, but I'm helping him navigate all the different airlines and things like that. So he gets up to speed on it. So it's great. It's great to have him. I'm looking forward. I can't say looking forward. I am enjoying working with him again. It's just great to be reconnected.
Thank you. Let's actually go over to Tyler from Louisville. Go ahead, Tyler.
Hey, Emma. The selection of Emma Sears to this squad as a rookie in the NWSL, she kind of wasted no time impressing for racing. What stood out to you about her debut campaign to give her this opportunity, especially with the the national team coming to Louisville soon.
Well, I think Emma Sears is a clear example of what we're looking to do in terms of providing opportunities for players who have performed well. As I said, the new players coming into camp that weren't part of the Olympic roster are all players who have performed well throughout the NWSL season. And look, I've said this, I say it privately more than I do publicly. The US could quite easily put two teams out. So there's always going to be players that are missing. And there are players that are outside of this roster that equally deserve to be in. But this is the opportunity for someone like Emma Sears, as it is for the other new players. And the message I will give to them when they come in is, one, you deserve it. You deserve that opportunity. Two, this is the right moment to do it. These are 3 friendlies where we need a larger squad. And most of all is for any of the current players that are in there, they know what it means to play for the national team, and that nobody can be complacent with that. It's the start of a new, I don't know what they have, what's the word you use?
Era?
Cycle. Thank you very much for that. It's a new cycle. And it's a chance to celebrate some of the really good things that are going on, outside of the national team pool. And I think Emma very much deserves to be there. And her coach is, I've known her coach, actually coached her, and she speaks so highly of her and of her character, of her coachability, and how much she wants to learn, how driven she is. And I'm very much looking forward to working with her.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks. See you in Louisville. Let's go to Jason Anderson. Go ahead.
Hi, Emma. Thanks for speaking with us. I wanted to ask about Ashley Sanchez. It's been a bit of a wait for her to get a recall. What have you seen from her that is maybe an evolution or an improvement in her game that has gotten her this latest opportunity? And then on a related note, you have a lot of number 10s in this squad, at least that we would refer to as number 10s. Are there some possibilities that you're going to look at some different roles for them that are not just the traditional number 10 spot?
I think, first of all, I can't comment on the evolution of Ashley Sanchez because I'm only looking at from, just recent performances this season in particular. I think she's got the ability to unlock defenses in a way that been fitting with not just the quality within her team. I think having watched her team play live against the Chicago Red Stars, I see what an integral part of that team is. And like I said, I think she's had a really solid season. Of course, we have a lot of quality number 10s. So I'm going to say it every time you interview me, there's going to be many top players that are going to be outside of this squad. And I will not be able to please each of them and every section of the fan base. But her opportunity is here now. And I think when it comes to lots of number 10s, like I said, there's some very important NWSL games outside of the window. And I have vowed to work alongside the NWSL to make sure we not only give opportunities to our players, but that means that I will be playing, 3 different teams, 3 different lineups to make sure that I provide that opportunity for players. So we need a squad of 26 to be able to do that. So I'm sure it won't feel like a lot as a result of so many changes. But I'll be clear on this is the one moment I will look to do it in the build up to the November camp. So this is a window for me to see some of the talent pool beyond the players that were selected for the Olympics.
Well said, and thanks. Let's go to Asif. Go ahead, Asif Burham.
Thanks, Aaron. Hi, Emma. Good to see you. We've seen the Spanish coach today not select Aitana to get some well-earned rest during the international window. For some of your European-based players who have to travel across the Atlantic, is that something you'd ever consider for friendly windows, especially for somebody like Emily Fox, who's just had a couple of weeks rest after the Olympic final before playing every game for Arsenal this season?
I think we have to go case by case. I don't sort of look at one window or, this situation. I mean, I think every player could create an argument for only having a couple of weeks rest post Olympics. So no, I don't look at this window any differently than I do any of them. That's the first thing. Two, the FIFA windows have been long established over a long period of time. So every, club, not so much club, every league has been aware of this window. So it's not new to anyone. But I know how to manage players, and the realities are, as I've explained already, we have 26 players, so that we're not in a position to play any player more than 2 games, which is what my objective is. If I can't achieve that because we don't, have the right numbers, then I won't, but I will certainly look to achieve that. And listen, it's a huge honour for these girls to play for their national team. I'm sure if you asked them how they would feel about not attending an opportunity to play for their country, they would hate the thought of that. So as far as I'm concerned, this is professional football, and playing club football and international football is part and parcel of what they have to do.
Let's move on to Kari Anderson. Go ahead.
Hi, Emma. Thank you so much for taking the time today. I was just wondering, in terms of your all the uncapped players you got in here, you've also got 3 first-time call-ups. All of them are NWSL players. I was just wondering, if were these players that you kind of already had your eye on heading into this window, or considering you spent your past couple of weeks touring NWSL stadiums, observing practices and things, were these people that stood out to you during that window? Or maybe a mix of both?
I would say that it's a number of things as opposed to one thing. We have an analytics team in the background that are determining some of the football metrics against our playing style, how well that player's performing. So I'll have an analysis team that are watching the players from the start of not just the NWSL this year, but over a period of time. I also have weekly check-ins to look at every game across the NWSL and see how every player is doing. So this is a combination of a qualitative decision that's done over a period of time. And like I said, I'm sitting here now thinking of a handful of players that could very well be within this roster that are not. I can only pick 26. And as you know, every player from the Olympics, as per the Victory Tour, I have to be included in this squad. So I could only select a very small size of new players in this camp in particular. So for those that have missed out, there will be another opportunity. I think in particular, the Futures Camp could be that in January. And if not, the door's never closed to playing for the national team.
Thank you.
Excellent. Paul Miles, go ahead.
Good morning, Emma. You've already answered a question about Emma Sears, so let me ask you, the national team is used to playing in large stadiums. What are your thoughts about playing in a smaller venue? What do you achieve, if anything, by playing at Lynn Family Stadium here in Louisville?
To be honest with you, I'm always concerned with atmosphere. I like the right atmosphere for the players. It's not about size, whether that be small, whether that be large. As I've said so many times, I just want to bring the players out and put them in front of the fans. And as I've said, the players who've come back from the Olympics, I think they deserve the opportunity to, be celebrated at home, whether that be in Louisville, Nashville, or Austin. And for us, we are all just really excited to be back on home soil. I sound American now saying that, and get a chance to be with the fans and most importantly, be together. We're looking forward to seeing each other.
Awesome. Let's go to Sarah Atch. Go ahead, Sarah.
Hi, thanks for having us. Hi, Emma. Thanks for being here. I had another player-specific question I wanted to ask about Yasmin Ryan, what you've been seeing from her in the NWSL, obviously. I'm curious what the window has been that you've been watching her. She played great last year in the championship, of course, with Gotham FC. I'm curious what you've seen from her this year as well that led you to give her her first call up.
Well, I think regardless of a coaching change, these players have been watched the whole time. So it's not like we just started. There's been a body of work that has been done, both handing on from Vlatko's era with Twyla overseeing the program into me. So all the players have been watched consistently. I think what's important is the realities, the playing style and what I will look for will form one part of that. And as I said, I look for consistency in behaviours from players. That's both sides of the ball. That's week in, week out. That's who you are at training. That's who you are off the field. So some of that might have involved club visits, conversations with coaches, and a number of different things. I think when it comes to Yasmin, I've seen real consistent performances from her. I think she's improved, not just going forward, but going backwards. And I think you have to at the top level. And I think she's had a really, really solid season. All of her numbers suggest that. And as I said, we have playing style metrics that we look at as well. And she's scored really highly with that. So to get her opportunity, which she thoroughly deserves, and I'm very excited for her. And as I said again, there's probably another set of players you could ask me about that are not in. But Yasmin for sure is definitely one who we felt confident, she's ready to take the next step in her career.
Simon Evans, go ahead.
Hi, Emma. Just a general one, actually. I mean, after this week's news from England, we have a situation where both the men's and women's England team are coached by non-nationals, and the same exact situation in the United States. I was wondering, is that just a coincidence, do you think, or has national team coaching become more attractive to club coaches? And do you think it makes any difference? Are there any unique challenges when you are a foreign coach of a national team?
I don't really think about it, to be honest with you. And I can only speak for myself and my own situation. I've gone on the record several times to talk about how instrumental America had been in my life. So for me and my journey, it feels perfectly normal. While I understand there might be questions in and around it, I'm personally focused on being the best manager I can for USA, and that's all I think about. The rest of that stuff, I guess, is for you guys to debate.
Let's go to Sandra Herrera.
Hi, Emma. Thanks so much for the time on this call and your perspectives on the future camps and your evaluation process. And in line with evaluation and how we're seeing some new players in the mix here, I had a staffing question. The coaching staff recently said farewell to Twyla Kilgore. So I'm wondering if there's been any conversations or anything like that about continued evolution on the staffing side. Are there any plans to maybe integrate any new personnel on the technical staff or assistant side of things? Thank you.
As I mentioned before, we've gone through the review process and now we're at the strategy process. The last thing I want to make is quick decisions. I want to make sure we're putting in place anything that's new coming into and around this team, that it's been well thought out as part of the strategy, whether that's a new member of a coaching team, for example, or some of the things that fit in line. So the big vision piece for us is to be world leading in a female 360 approach. So by that, I mean everything in and around, holistically around the female athlete. So we want to make sure we build the strategy possible before we hire within that. And I think that's the wise thing to do. We don't have an Olympics coming up or a World Cup coming up, but we want to build the foundation that is solid going into our next steps.
Thanks. Let's last two for Emma here. Let's go back to Sylvia and then we'll end with Sophie Nicolau. Go ahead, Sylvia.
Thank you again. Emma, just a follow up on your conversations earlier about the Futures Camp, and I guess I'll make this a two-parter. One, you have 3 teenagers on the roster. One went to the Olympics. 2, just can you talk about what you've seen from those 3? So I'll say Moultrie, Shaw, and Thompson. And then two, when you say futures camp, and we've talked a lot about the youth movement, is there any room for older player or veteran of the NWSL to potentially make the team? Thank you.
Well, to the first part, Jaden Shaw, I was so gutted she couldn't make it in the Olympics. What a teammate she was during that period. And I was very hopeful she would make it back, but it wasn't be the case. I think she's recovered from her injury. She's in a good rhythm. I spoke to her the other day. I said her hair looks fantastic. I love it shorter, really suits her. And I'm really looking forward to having a fit and healthy Jaden in with us. Alyssa, I think she's been tremendous for Angel. Spoke with her when she did come into camp as a training player, and she understood what she needed to do. And I've really appreciated her sort of living up to her own expectations for herself and demonstrating the behaviors and the performances that she wanted to see from herself. So I'm super proud of her for that and looking forward to bringing her back in. I think she's a super talent. I think for Olivia, she had an injury that took a little bit of time to recover from. I think she's still got to keep building her way to her best levels. But she's 19 years of age. She's a super talent, and again, someone I'm looking forward to seeing.
As far as older players,
the door's never closed. That's why I call it a futures camp, because there might have been some more senior players, more experienced players that are equally entitled to be into camp now. And I don't want to shut the door even in January. So a futures player could be a more experienced NWSL player that didn't get a look now that I really want to look at. I want to keep that quite loose and fluid and not limit it to just under 20s and under 23s. It will be above that too, but it will be an exception to the rule rather than the norm.
and lastly, we'll go to Sophie. Go, Sophie.
Thank you for your time, Emma. And you're building your own legendary path in the game. And a picture a lot of fans enjoyed this last week was seeing you sitting next to the legend Vic Akers at the Arsenal-Chelsea game. First thing is, how important is it for you to keep those relationships going as you've moved from club to international level, managing the US women's team? And also, was that the first time you've had no stress watching an Arsenal v Chelsea game?
Oh, really good question. First of all, Vic Akers has been so massive in my life, both as my coach and a mentor. And to go full circle, he invited me to the Emirates on Saturday. I think he knew it might have been like tough emotionally for me, but he also knew I was watching players for the US. So it was so lovely to sit with someone I have huge respect for. And I think the only other person I could have watched that game with was with my dad. And in absence of that, Vic was, the most fitting. I think when it comes to relaxed, here's what I'll say to you. I've never ever experienced hospitality at the Emirates at an Arsenal-Chelsea women's game. I've always been downstairs. It was lovely to go back to the club. And I say this because Arsenal's been a big part of my life. I grew up playing there and I coached there. And while I've been a rival for recent years, it's always a club that's still fond in my heart. And I had a couple of strange moments where emotionally, on one level, I really want Chelsea to do well. And then Emily Fox is running down the right wing. And I'm coaching her in my mind within the game. And I thought that was quite strange. And then I was so excited to see Kat Macario come on the field. So yeah, it was a range of mixed emotions, I would say, and one that I'd probably in my own mind wondered how I'd feel, not only going back to watch Chelsea for the first time, but an Arsenal-Chelsea game. And all I kept thinking was, I'm really happy. I'm happy for Sonia, for the team she has. I'm happy to be able to go back knowing my heart is full because I get to coach in my eyes, the best team in the world, of amazing people. So it was probably the best time for me to go and not feel like it was too difficult. So it was a really, really good day out. My mum loved it too.